All right, welcome. This is part 2 to the High Priestess. Last night, I'm not gonna lie, I was tired. I hung out for 2.5 hours, but I had to wrap it up, and I promised to finish it with the breakdown on the High Priestess. High Priestess is another. Well, they're all dope. I will say it's another dope one and a long succession of dope ones. But let's say this, let's get it started. Welcome. It is I, the professor. Thank you for spending this time with me on my YouTube channel, Occult Topics with the Professor. If you haven't already, hit that like button, subscribe, share. This is actually part 2 to the Tarot series. We're on the second numbered card, the High Priestess. Not last night, this morning, we went in, covered a lot of good topics about the High Priestess. The palms behind her, they are masculine. The pomegranates are feminine. I had mentioned that I would find Gerald Massey's Lunology, because I almost he definitely had some good information on palm trees, the palms in terms of when the Christ rode into Bethlehem on the back of an ass, everybody laid the palms down. I'm almost certain he said it was a lunar symbol. But I do not see my Gerald Massey lectures, and I know that I have them. I'm not getting up to look for it. But what I will do is we'll just follow up with some more. So just to back it up, the High Priestess is a representation of duality. In terms of wisdom, she is both masculine and feminine, because the wisdom principle in the supernal triangle, which is Hokmah, is masculine, and then down lower as a reflection of that supernal light in Yesod, in the moon, it is feminine. She carries in her lap a scroll partially hidden with the letters Torah on it. Torah is the Hebrew book of the law. But we should by now, if you've watched any of these videos, we know that Torah is an anagram for ROTA, which is rota. And rota is, I believe it's Greek or Latin for wheel or round, which is the wheel of time or wheel of fortune. And then there's also another anagram, which is TARO, which is tarot. And she's holding these secrets. They're not so much secrets. This is divine law, and it's partially hidden to suggest that, it's only available it is not available to uninitiated. This card is also associated with delusion, but in the sense that you're going to be forced to face truths about yourself. You cannot hide if you take this path. Speaking of path, the Hebrew letter associated with this card is Gimel. Gimel is the camel. Camel represents travel, finances, and also water, because camels store lots of water to go on these journeys. We can look at her robe and see that it is kind of shimmering and unfolding like water. The color blue. She's flanked on her left and her right by two pillars, Boaz and Jachin. And of course, we see the number 2 at the top. And so I say from here, and she also has on her head is a crown diadem, but the center is clearly a full moon, and the two sides can easily be taken as crescent moons. And at her feet is also another crescent moon. And it's said that her robes, which flow down like water, every other tarot card you see with water comes from this. This is the source. I believe it was in Robert Wang's Cabalistic Tarot where he broke down that She also represents the 4 elements, and the water element in terms of her flowing robes is actually the 4 rivers that flowed out of the Garden of Eden. And that was something new to me. I did not know that those 4 rivers each represented an element. And that's probably on me because I don't speak Hebrew, and maybe I should. I'll get to it eventually. Boy Scout time. I want to read that one part. Okay, here we go. This is in Robert Wang's Cabalistic Tarot. And he says here that she, meaning the high priestess, is also the source of the 4 rivers of paradise: the Pison, river of fire; the Gihon, river of water; the Hiddekiel, river of air; and the Phrath, river of earth. So that's just showing that she is a representation of not only the 4 elements, but a reflection of the 5th, which is each ether, Akash, quintessence, whatever you want to call it. Manly P. Hall, in his book, I don't have it here, The Secret Teachers of All Ages, he says that on some cards, she's holding the key. And so the fact that she's holding the key, that was a bread trail that led to the goddess Juno, and she is the keeper of keys. And also to not Juno, I believe it's Cybele. Cybele is the keeper of the keys, but she is also associated with Juno, Hera, Rhea, Ishtar, Tammuz. So in some ways, she is the ultimate great mother. In other ways, she's like a lesser. The fact that she has these 3 moons, 3 phases of the moon. She's also the virgin, the maiden, and the crone, those 3 aspects. She's also a correspondence to Artemis, the hunter. These are all moon goddesses, Diana as well. So I think what we'll do is, we were just talking about water. Let's dive in. This is the Woman's Dictionary of Symbols and Sacred Objects by Barbara G. Walker. So what we're going to do now, I want to look up water. And just to kind of tell you, again, if you tuned in just for this one, I suggest that you go back to part 1 of the High Priestess, and you'll kind of, what we talk about will make a lot more sense. So let's see, for water, let's go to pages 5 and 6 real quick. Let's see, 5. Let's skip 5. I actually highlighted 6, and on page 6 of this book, she talks about the elements, and I'm just going to read some of what I highlighted. It says signs of antiquity. Signs of antiquity's 4 elements appeared in either triangular or circular form. So the elements are always portrayed as either triangular or circular. Most are familiar with the triangular, upward, downward facing triangle. Then there's the upward and downward facing triangle with the line through it. So that's the one that most are familiar with. But there's also the circular form. And in the circular form, I'll give you a glimpse of it right here. The circular form, you'll find the blank circle, which is fire. You'll find the dot, which is for the sun, which is, I believe, air, right? Yeah. The circle with the dot in the center is also synonymous with it's the symbol for the sun in gold, but it represents the element of air. The circle with the line through it is water at the horizon. And then the 4-quarter circle, that is earth, because earth is essentially comprised of all 4 elements. And if you look at the High Priestess, she has that solar cross on her chest. The circle is implied. So she too represents all 4 elements. And so that's why he kind of tie it in and makes sense that way. So in either triangular or circular form, arranged in order of their supposed density or refinement. Heaviest of the 4 was earth, which sinks to the bottom when mingled with water in the vessel. Conversely, air and water bubbles in water bubbles upwards, while fire rises upward in the air and is therefore the lightest element. So a lot of times you'll find that fire and air are almost synonymous. Fire representing light, air also representing light. It's just the fluidity of that symbol is just to show a lack of density. So Greeks postulated the fifth element, even lighter and brighter than fire, existing only in the heavens. It was called ether, the star stuff of which the astral, starry bodies of heavenly beings were made. This ethereal fifth element became the mystic quinta essentia of the medieval alchemy. I'm going to skip down. The basic four elements passed into European tradition via Greek literature, but the Greeks were among the last to hear of them. They have been part of human thinking all over the world for thousands, perhaps hundreds of thousands of years. The real origin of the elements lay somewhere in the Neolithic age, when people discovered that there are only four possible ways to dispose of their dead other than cannibalism, which is burial, which symbolizes earth, cremation, which symbolizes fire, sinking into the water, or exposing to the carrion birds of the air. All four of these funerary practices were known to the ancients, who envisioned death as a reversal of birth, a return to the mother who brought forth all life in the world. I'm gonna skip over again. The four elemental symbols are found in the four hands of India's pre-Vedic great mother Kali, who invented the sound of the Sanskrit letters, and from these created the primal mantras that brought the universe into being. These sounds were classified as La, earth, Va, water, Ya, air, and Ra, fire. Uniting them all was the goddess's own spirit, Ma, Kali Ma. So Kali Ma represent the quintessence, the uniting force. And now that I say uniting force, that is the other name for the high priestess, which is uniting intelligence, because she brings all of these diverse, dense, and lighter elements together. This is the uniting intelligence. In Mahanavarana Tantra, the same goddess is addressed as earth, water, air, and fire, as well as life in this world, knowledge itself, and supreme divinity. She mingled the four elements to create life from flesh, earth, blood, water, breath, air, fire, vital heart. And that's another thing. The mingling of these elements is said to be what the process of shuffling tarot cards are. You're actually mingling these primal elements together and essentially using your spirit to breathe life into them. Medieval thinkers believed in four sets of elemental spirits: gnomes for earth, undines for water, salamanders for fire, sylphs for air. The four suits of the tarot decks were element signs whose mingling, shuffling was supposed to reflect the creation of events. What I just said, more or less. Wands, fire; swords, air; cups, water; pentacles, earth. The traditional circular symbols for the elements express the customary notion of their ascending degree of rarefaction. A plain empty circle stands for fire, showing that it has no weight. A dotted circle, which also represents the sun, stands for air. The horizontal line of the sea horizon, called the diameter or Demeter, stands for water. That was my part about Demeter. The cross in a circle with its many variations represented the four quarters. This signifies the earth, superimposed on the other three signs. The earth sign covers and embraces them all. So I'm going to read a couple more about water, and then we're going to dive in. And as things pop up, I'm definitely going to look. Oh, that's what I do before we get started. I'm definitely going to read for the palm leaves and pomegranates, because everything on this card is symbolic and has a very relevant meaning. As Eliphas Levi said, if you had if you were a prisoner and all you had was a tarot deck and a correct understanding of it, in 3 years, you will understand the workings of the universe. So we're going to dive into as many of the symbols present as possible. Okay, 134. This is another reference for water. Oh, this is under cup. Well, I can say that water represents memory, knowledge, the womb, it's considered a passive or feminine trait, even though there have been gods and not only goddesses of the sea, there are gods of the sea. Here it says to medieval pagans, witches, and alchemical mystics, the cup was a universal symbol of the mother element, water, especially the water of the sea womb that was supposed to have given birth to the earth and all that lived on it. In the tarot, the suit of cups stood for the same water element and was replaced in later card packs by the equally maternal symbol of the heart. In Celtic tradition, the magic cup from the sea meant truth. It would break in three pieces if it would break in three pieces if three lies were spoken over it. Oh, okay. So a cup had the ability to betoken the truth. Let's go to another. What is this? I left myself some sticky notes. Oh, here's the pentacle. This is just a tarot reference. I'm trying to stick to the high priestess. Let me see what we got going on here. That's the rod. Okay, let's see. Let me go to 136. Let's see what we're working with. Oh, this is about the keys. Now remember that each tarot card is known as a key. And I believe it was Robert Wang, he was very tongue-in-cheek when he said there was a certain key to a key. And the significance of keys, we're going to speak on that right now. Because remember, Manly P. Hall says that in certain tarot cards, the high priestess is carrying a key in her left hand, I believe, or right hand. The key was a mystical symbol of knowledge about the afterlife, long before Christian popes laid claim to the keys of the kingdom. The Egyptian Ankh was viewed as the key of the Nile, both the earthly river and its heavenly reflection in the star fields of the blessed, the Milky Way. Like the pagan Petra, who became Peter, key-holding deities could grant or refuse admission through the heavenly gates. The Book of Enoch mentioned key holders, gatekeepers. In Latin, that means janitors. I think that's an important symbol, especially if you're into decoding movies and not just your life or tarot cards. A lot of times we see janitors in movies and they're always fumbling with keys and open things up. We never think of them as a correspondence to a deity, as gatekeepers. Maybe you saw a janitor in a dream. Gatekeepers of the celestial mansions. The goddess Persephone was the original holder of the key to Hades. A key often meant the unlocking of occult mysteries, the door of the inner shrine representing enlightenment. Such keys were verbal formula like open sesame, the Egyptian Hekau, or words of power. According to the Osiris mysteries, the holy words were keys to heaven. You also have to remember that the name of God, Yod-He-Vav-He, was considered a word of power. It was not to be spoken because it was said that you could actually either become master of the universe if you utter it correctly, or you could destroy the universe if you uttered it wrongly. And Ophil is one of the few who is emphatic that Yod He Vav He is not a name but a formula, and that's always best to keep in mind. This is a side note. What's going on, bud?
Nothing much.
All right. Can you close the door for me?
I just had some pizza.
Okay, that's what's up. That's what's up. I'm gonna finish reading this, okay? Let's see, where was I? According to the Osarian mysteries, the holy words were keys to heaven and must be concealed from non-initiates as a great mystery. Similarly, Sophocles spoke of a golden key on the tongue of the ministering Hierophant in the Eleusinians. Such verbal keys were also claimed by the papacy by virtue of the famous Petrine passage, or when Peter, Jesus said unto him, he delivered the keys to Peter. According to the medieval symbolism of the Tarot, it is not the Pope, but the Papess. The Papess is the high priestess, the female Pope, who holds the all-important keys. She is still equated with Persephone as guardian of the underworld gate, the veiled opening at her back where the Greeks located both sinners and blessed ones after death. So that veil behind her actually represents like similar to piercing the veil of Isis. And she's the key to piercing that veil, to looking behind it. Let's see what we're gonna do. Let's go to J.C. Cooper's Illustrated Encyclopedia Symbols, and we'll do some more water. My high priestess. I literally forgot last night which book I left her in, but I knew I'd find her, so I wasn't worried about it. Let's go here. We're going to look at water one more time, and then we're going to look at just different symbols. This is J.C. Cooper's Illustrated Encyclopedia Symbols. Buddy, can you close the door for me, son?
Oh.
Thank you. Okay, water. The waters are the source of all potentialities in existence. That's pretty fitting for the first line. The source and grave of all things in the universe, the undifferentiated, the unmanifest, the first form of matter, the liquid of the whole verification. This is a Plato quote. All waters are symbolic of the great mother associated with birth, the feminine principle, the universal womb, the prima materia. These are all names for the high priestess, by the way. The waters are also equated with the continual flux of the manifest world with unconscious forgetfulness. They always dissolve, abolish, purify, wash away, and regenerate. They are associated with the moisture and circulatory movement of blood and the sap of life, as opposed to the dryness and static conditions of death. They revivify, never heard that word, revivify and infuse new life. Hence, baptism by water or blood in initiatory religions, in which the water or blood also washes away the old life and sanctifies the new. Let's see. Oh, let's go. I'm gonna read this. The lower waters are chaos or ever-changing manifest world. The higher waters are the realm of unifying waters. Remember, she's the uniting intelligence. These are also connected with the lesser and greater mysteries, and together they complete the one and mark the universal regeneration. Troubled waters depict the vicissitudes and illusion and vanity of life, the phantom flux of sensations and ideas. Running water signifies life, the water of life, the river, spring, or fountain of life, symbolized by the undulating line or by the spiral or meander. Her dress is meandering as we speak. So next we're going to go look up, okay, but I'm gonna be honest with you, either you hang out or you stay out. You can't keep coming in and out, okay?
Yeah, I'm gonna go in my room.
All right, you're welcome to come back, but if you do, I'm gonna ask you to stay, okay? Let's look up the pomegranate. Pomegranate, immortality, multiplicity in unity, perennial fertility, fecundity, plenty, Buddhist, one of the three blessed fruits with the citrus and peach, Chinese, abundance, fertility, posterity, numerous and virtuous offspring, a happy future, Christian, eternal life, spiritual fecundity, that's basically fertility, the church, the seeds being the numerous members, Greco-Roman, spring, rejuvenation, immortality, fertility, emblem of Hera/Juno, talked about that, and of Ceres and Persephone as the periodic return of spring. So there's actually two symbols that ties her to several of these deities. So this is not a mistake. It's not an accident. It is also the plant which grew from the blood of Dionysus. Hebrew, regeneration, fertility. The pomegranates with the bells on the priestly vestments represent fecundating thunder and lightning. So now let's go from the pomegranate to the palm. I remember reading this morning for sure. Palm is a solar symbol. Exaltation, righteousness, fame is always growing erect. Good chance that it's a masculine symbol. Blessing, triumph, victory. The palm, never shedding its foliage, is continually adorned with the same green, evergreen. The high priestess through Cybele is also connected to the evergreen, eternal youth, eternal spring. This power of the tree men think agreeable and fit for this power of the tree men think agreeable and fit for representing victory. And that's that. It is a tree of life and it is a tree of life, and as self-creative, it is equated with the androgyne. So it's not so much just masculine, it also represents androgyny. As phallic, it signifies virility or fertility, but if depicted with dates, it is feminine. Oh, okay. Thy stature is like a palm tree, thy breast to clusters, canticles. Bearing good fruit in old age, it symbolizes longevity and flourishing old age. Arabian, the tree of life. Chinese, retirement, dignity, fecundity. Christian, the righteous who shall flourish like a palm tree. Immortality, and as such is sometimes depicted with the phoenix, divine blessing. Christ's triumphal re-entry into Jerusalem. The martyr's triumph over death, paradise. Palm branches signify glory. So here we see glory and victory. These are the two Sephirah that flanked Yesod, the moon. And so I don't think that's clearly not an accident. Triumph, resurrection, victory over death and sin. It was a funerary emblem among the early Roman Christians, an attribute of one who had made the pilgrimage to the Holy Land, hence palmer. Emblems of St. Paul the Hermit, who holds a palm in his hand, and numerous martyrs. Palm Sunday, surely is. Palm Sunday commemorates Christ's entry into Jerusalem. Egyptian, the tree of the calendar, producing a branch for each month. Maybe that's why he referred to it as lunar. I'm speaking of Gerald Massey in Lunology. He stated that the palm was a lunar symbol, and there is a branch for each month. And we know that there's a moon for each month. multiple suns for each month, but only one full moon per month. So now I get it. I don't got to find the book. The tree of Egyptian, the tree of the calendar, producing a branch for each month. Greek, emblem of Apollo at Delphi and Delos. Hebrew, the righteous man, emblem of Judea after the Exodus. Sumero-Semitic, a tree of life, emblem of the Phoenician Baal Tamar, the Lord of the Palm, and of Astarte and the Assyrio-Babylonian Ishtar. All these deities already been connected to her. Let's look up the crescent. Okay, the crescent. Now remember, she has the two waning and waxing crescents, but she also has a crescent on her foot. Now that's a symbol I haven't really just totally deciphered why she has a crescent moon under her foot, but I'll figure it out for myself. Or hopefully one of these books I have a dropping in my mouth like a cherry to a god. The crescent moon is par excellence the symbol of the great mother, the lunar queen of heaven, also Hathor. The bull of heaven. Well, yeah. Hathor can be equated to the bull of heaven, even though she's a hippopotamus. There are connections to her in the northern sky. So she is equated with the bull of heaven, but I may be getting ahead of myself. So let me just keep reading. And is the attribute of all moon goddesses. It is the passive feminine principle and is both the mother and celestial virgin. The changing moon depicts the change in the phenomenal world. The crescent is represented by cows or bull's horns, but it also takes the form of the lunar bark, the receptive cup, we get the cup reference in water. It is the ship navigating the night sky, the ship of light on the sea of night. Crescents backing each other or placed above and below are the waxing and waning moon. So maybe that's showing the waning moon. Maybe. The solar disk with the lunar crescent, or with the disk placed between cow's horns, which is what her head looks like, together depict unity, the 2 in 1. Oh, okay. Because she's the number 2. So, but she's still a uniting. Oh, wow. It's stating the same thing over and over, which is going to hammer it home. Everything about this picture is stating the united intelligence, the duality with one purpose. The moon, the water, the horns, even the masculine, feminine, and androgynous, the solar cross, all elements uniting into one. So yeah. So for me, I know now, until I gain a deeper understanding, the high priestess is going to represent a uniting force, a coming together, for better or for worse. Or joint sun and moon deities, and the sacred marriage of the divine pairs. A crescent with rays is funerary and apotheosis of the dead. Celtic, the crescent moon and 2 crescents back to back symbolize immortality, which could be said for the Virgin Mary in the throne because she's ever renewing herself. Christian, the Virgin Mary, Queen of Heaven. Egyptian, Isis, Queen of Heaven, and Hathor as the cow. So y'all was right. With the solar disk between her horns. Hindu, the crescent moon of the newborn, quick and eager growth, the cup of the elixir of immortality. And Shiva's hair it represents the bull Nandi. Islamic, the crescent with the star depicts divinity, sovereignty, or as C. Philmore will say, mother and son, my son, my son. Maori, light out of darkness, Sumerian attribute of the moon god Sin, the emblem of Byzantium, Islam, and the Turks. That was the crescent. We did the water. We did the pillars. Well, I think I did the pillars last night, but it can't hurt to look up pillars. And then we're going to get into this information. I won't hold you hostage. Pillar, the world axis, the vertical axis which both holds apart and joins heaven and earth. That's a good description of the high priestess just right there, because she represents the 13th path of Gimel, which is down the middle pillar. She's a direct connection between heaven and earth. She's even a reflection of those supernal elements in heaven, and as the moon reflects the light of that supernal sun, that second sun, onto earth. So she's a condenser. And now I think about it, the uniting aspects, the uniting intelligence, all of the other Sephiroth above Yesod feed into Yesod. Yesod then unites and then like magnifies or filters that combined unified light down into Yesod. So just hammering the same thoughts in over and over. A ritual world center or an omphalos, pillar and tree. Symbolism are closely connected, and the pillar often symbolizes the tree of life. The pillar also represents stability, the concept standing firm, and according to Philo, the idea of God who stands firm and is stability as opposed to human flux. It also raises the sacred or venerated above the profane or ordinary. A pillar of fire or smoke denotes the presence of divinity. A broken pillar is death or mortality. A pillar surrounded by a human head indicates a terminus or boundary. Pillars surmounted by doves signify the great mother, especially the prophetic goddess Dodana. A pillar with a dolphin depicts the male and female powers combined. Love. All right. Let's look up scroll. Since she's carrying a scroll. Now, in some books, it's in some cards, on some keys, it is actually a book. But since it appears to be a scroll here, we'll look up the difference between scroll. I'm going to bet you a scroll is either synonymous with skill or skull. Still knowledge acquired by some means. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Scroll, learning, knowledge, the unfolding of life and knowledge, the passing of time, the extent of a life, the scroll of the law, destiny. Buddhist, the unfolding of the law, the scroll of the text or sutras. Chinese, longevity, scholarship. Christian, the book of life. The seven sealed scroll, which none can read, shares the symbolism of the tablets of destiny. The scroll is an attribute of St. James the Great, also associated with Isaiah, Jeremiah, and the prophets. Greek, attribute of Asclepius as medical training. Egyptian, knowledge as associated with the papyrus as the emblem of Lower Egypt. All right. I think now is the time to dive in. What I want to do is I'm going to get Godwins, because I'm saving this for last. Like I said, this won't be very long, but I'm saving this for last. Paul Foster case. Right now, I'm pro Paul Foster. What I'm going to look up here is Gimel. I'm going to look up Gimel. Gimel, G, third letter of the Hebrew alphabet, transliterated as G or GH, spelled out GML, camel, 73. Now he mentioned that by Robert, I mean Robert Wang, he mentions that Gimel and Hokmah, Camel and Wisdom, have the same number, 73, which shows a strong correspondence because Gimel is a double letter and has a double meaning. Corresponds to the moon, the 13th path between Kether and Tippereth, the Tarot Trump 2, the High Priestess. For additional correspondences, see Lebanah, Lebanah, Lebanah. Just go there. L-E or L-A? L-E-B-A. All right, here we go. L-E-B. I'm not finding it. Let's go back. L-E. I went there and didn't see it. I don't like this copy of Godwin's Cabalistic Encyclopedia, to be honest. It has no pictures. And I love my pictures. I love my visuals. So eventually, I'm going to get rid of this. That's a good reason to buy the book. I want the copy with the pictures in it. You know what I mean, son? Reading is fun for the mental. But I need my pictures, yo. No, it is not in here. And he said to look it up. Like it was in his book. Make sure again I'm spelling it right. Lebanah. I bet you that's the key. I could Google it. Why not? Let's Google it. We'll also look up Boaz and Jachin, which I already know what they mean, but it's good to get it on record. Let's see. All right. So we're going to look up Lebanah. Hebrew meaning of Lebanah. Okay. Big fingers, man. Oh, it means white in Hebrew, a poetic name for the moon. Why he left that out, I'll never find. Oh, before we move on any further, I always make it a point to show different correspondences to the different cards using this book. So we're going to do that, and then I'm going to move on to Paul Foster case. Like I said, I won't hold you hostage. We already had a 2.5 hour get down this morning. This is the complete book of correspondence by Sandra Keys, a comprehensive and cross-reference resource for pagans and Wiccans. All right. I think I used the blue sticky notes for this one. I did. Okay. So under issues, intentions, and powers, change or changes to cope with, initiate, and support. So the High Priestess is also a correspondence to change, whether it's to cope with the change, to initiate a change, or to support change. And it just gives these different correspondences how you can either initiate, cope with it, or support it. And these are all the different correspondences that you can use in ritual, in meditation, whatever works best for you. So here we see solar system, Mercury, of course, the moon, Pluto, Uranus, zodiac, Cancer, of course, Gemini, Scorpio. I say, of course, Cancer because Cancer is represented by the moon. Celebrations, Litha, Vasant, Panchami, I have no idea what that is. Element water, rooms, Dag, Iwaz, wise means make progress. Hagal, thorn, direction south. Numbers 257. Colors black, blue, green, orange, red, white, yellow. But again, the critical one for the high priestess would be the color blue. The tarot is the chariot, the hangman, high priestess, tower, and wheel of fortune. Now, I was amazed to realize that the more research I did on the high priestess, the more chariots popped up. Chariots are usually drawn on 4 wheels or by 4 horses. Those are the 4 elements. I believe it was Jung who said that the reins on a chariot represent the wheel, the horses like your vital power, the 4 wheels, the 4 elements, and so on and so on. So it's still that uniting intelligence we're seeing here, even in the correspondences. Now, under different trees, maybe you want to ground yourself, meditate by this tree, or whatever your ritual calls for. Ash, elder, hawthorn, palm, which is known as dragon's blood, walnut, and yew. Palm, we just read, is associated with the high priestess, but also yew, that's for making wands, magical wands and witches' wands. So you can you can tap in and you can channel the high priestess and ask her all the questions that you want yourself. They have miscellaneous plants listed as ants and myrrh, herb garden, heather, honeysuckle, lady's mantle, morning glory, peppermint. Again, morning's glory. Our said glory and victory is associated. These are all key words that are designed to help you to tap into this energetic archetype. And I'm going to move on from there. There's also under clairvoyance, the high priestess. Water is associated with clairvoyance because water holds memory. I don't know if most people know this or not, but you can place water under your bed when you sleep, and it will increase the chances of dream recall, out-of-body experiences, and lucid dreams on up. Loki's mentioned here on the gods, Loki and Old Odin, the number 7, and I'm just going to read briefly through them. You get the idea. If you don't have this book, find a similar one, especially if you do a lot of rituals that revolve around certain days, certain months, certain elements. You will want one of these. For illumination. Now remember, she represents the uniting illumination. She's also represents light, but light can also be blinding and concealing. You can be blinded by light. Most assume that light is a revealer because you equate darkness and now there's light. But light can be as equally blinding, equally concealing as darkness, depending on how bright it is, which is the reason why there is a veil, the veil of the abyss between the supernal triad on the tree of life and the rest of the tree, because we're not built for that light. You know, you have to, you know, you have to match that vibration. So in the illumination, of course, it will be the high priestess card and the hermit. Solar system or planets you will use: moon, sun, Uranus. See that moon, sun, Uranus would be a direct line from Kether down to Yesod in terms of the tree of life. Metal, gold, that's the sun. Goddess Hecate, that's direct correspondence to her. Sekhmet, I couldn't remember Sekhmet's name for nothing this morning when I was talking about a correspondence to the high priestess. Sekhmet, I kept saying Bastet, but it was Sekhmet I was trying to recall. Let me see, let me pull up another one. Let's see. Okay, here is for in the mineral kingdom. So if you have if you want to tap into the elements, you know, there's the 4 kingdoms: the mineral, the vegetable, the animal, and the human. A good way to tap into the mineral kingdom, you can use this card because she is the uniting force of all the elements, and the elements are said to have kings. There's a serpent king, there's a gnome king, there's a salamander king, and it's, Undyne, which for the water, Salamanders for fire, gnomes for earth, and sylphs for air. They each have a king or a ruler. You can go through her to contact. And zodiac would be Aries, Cancer, Gemini, Libra, Sagittarius, Taurus, Virgo. So doing those signs, during those months, those signs are popping, and you can tap in. And these are all air and earth signs. And not all air and earth, I take that back. Jupiter, Venus, season, spring. And let's see. Let's get to another one. And another one. Oh, I said I was gonna look up the pillars in there, huh? Get you these books. My main goal, this is my research. Like I said, I've already progressed past this card, so I'm certain I already looked at the pillars, but I'm trying to share, number one, to help somebody who's as much in the dark as I am, or to help someone who wants to learn but doesn't know how to go about it. So in the end, it's not me doing the work for you, it's me showing you how you can do it for yourself. And having said that, let's get on to the good part, which is, one more thing before I get to the good part. I have another book that I consistently read from, which is Z's Easy Tarot. Really, I'm not gonna say I don't like it, but I do feel like it's kind of like fluff. But you know, all things for all people. So I'm not gonna put my ish on anybody else. So here's the High Priestess. What she says, and this is Z's Easy Tarot by Zsuzsanna E. Budapest, and she spells Zsuzsanna with the Z. Zsuzsanna E. Budapest. And so for the meaning of the Major Arcana High Priestess, she states moral clarity, knowing what is good for you and what isn't. Teachings from the goddess through dreams could be the influencing of a spiritual woman upon the queerest. Dianic teachings, which is Diana, moon orientation and spirituality, moon and menstrual, woman orientation, often turning to the movement. The queerest takes herself more seriously and trusts her own judgment. Now, let's get down to the good part. Paul Foster cases. The Tarot, a key to the wisdom of the ages. So let me get in here and find the High Priestess. How many pages does he have on here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. Oh, not too bad. 6 pages. I should have pulled up because this is the Rider-Waite High Priestess. Bolta's is slightly different, but it's all good. Gimel, third letter of the Hebrew alphabet, is a double letter. Its name means camel because camels are used for transportation, for carrying goods from one place to another. The letter name suggests travel, communication, commerce, and like ideas. Because merchants and pilgrims use camels in making journeys together, Gimel suggests association, combination, coexistence, partnership, and the like. Because a camel has means for carrying extra supplies of water, it symbolizes moisture. Finally, that's the water here, the water aspect. Finally, the camel is the ship of the desert. Its humps look something like a crescent. Gimel is represented in English by the letter G, which has also a hard and soft pronunciation. Hard as in girl, soft as in geranium. The numeral value of Gimel in Hebrew arithmetic and in reckoning the numeration of the Hebrew words is 3, which is why it's represented as a number 2, but it's represented by the number 2, but in Hebrew, in terms of the numeration of Hebrew words, it's 3, which is why it's the third card. The moon is the celestial body assigned to Gimel. First, because the moon is a satellite accompanying the earth. Second, because the moon waxes and wanes, just as a caravan is first seen as a tiny dust cloud on the rim of the desert, then grows larger and larger until it stops a while at some oasis city, then grows smaller and smaller as it journeys thence on its way to its next destination. Third, because the lunar crescent resembles the shape of the camel's hump. Also because as the camel is the ship of the desert, so is the moon the ship of the skies. Because we had just read in J.C. Cooper's Illustrated Encyclopedia Symbols that the crescent moon is also associated with the lunar bark of the sky, the Egyptian mythology. Finally, the astrological name of the moon is cold and moist. The moon is the astrological symbol of personality and of memories carried from one incarnation to another by the subconscious mind. In our color scale, the tint assigned to the moon is blue, corresponding to the musical note G sharp or A flat. As a double letter, Gimel designates the pair of opposites, peace and strife, or war and peace. For as in the world, peace and war are mainly dictated by the conditions of commerce. Ain't that the truth? Communication and transportation. So in human personality, adjustments or maladjustments are largely determined by the response of the subconscious to the things and people with whom we are brought into communication. So this is also a card of communication. It's also a card of communication. Uniting intelligence is the mode of consciousness attributed to Gimel. As transportation, camel and caravan brings distant places nearer together and establishes communication between them. So does the subconscious, which is the connecting medium between human personalities, unite us to one another regardless of distance. And what he's getting at is the understanding that the collective unconscious is shared. Most people don't realize this. You want to feel different or superior to someone else. We are all one, believe it or not. I know that might sound corny, especially coming from me, but the underlying principle is that we all share the collective unconscious. We could agree on that. Then what about the subconscious? What about dreams? We all share these mediums. We all share them. Below is the direction attributed to Gimel. That which is below is secondary, subordinate, dependent, under control, subject to command, obedient. All these ideas are clearly related to the idea of camel as an obedient beast of burden. They relate in consciousness to the subordinate element of personal subconsciousness, at all times amenable to control by suggestions which originate in the mental activities symbolized in tarot by the magician, who represents self-consciousness. The title High Priestess means literally chief feminine elder or primary receptive aspect of the life power. In Hindu philosophy, this is Prakriti, the pre-cosmic root substance, which is the substratum beneath all objective planes of existence. Thus, the woman in key 2 is in one sense identical with the first mother or first matter or of the alchemists, who often call this prima materia their virgin Diana, Diana being the moon goddess, the first mother, prime matter, prima materia. Diana is the goddess of the crescent moon. She is also the great Hecate of Greek occult philosophy. Hecate, often confused in ancient mythology with Luna, who was supposed to have all secret powers of nature at her command. In fact, the high priestess corresponds to all the virgin goddesses of the ancient world, to Artemis, guardian and healer, helper of children, to Maya, mother of Hermes, to Bonadea, who out of modesty never left her bower or left herself to be seen by men, to Kybele, whose sanctuaries were caves. Dr. Waite says she is the spiritual bride and mother, the daughter of the stars, the queen of the borrowed light. But this is the light of all. Thus, she also represents Eve before her union with Adam. Before Eve was Lilith, right? Her number 2 has been explained heretofore as a symbol of duplication, reflection, copying, transcription, reproduction, and so on. It relates definitely to memory, the basic function of subconsciousness. The number 2 also suggests the idea of duplicity, deception, untruth, illusion, error, and delusion. This is correct because subconsciousness repeats and elaborates the mistaken results of faulty, superficial, self-conscious observation, being at all times uncritically amenable to suggestion, and at the same time, the channel of telepathic communication. Subconsciousness is the source of most of the foolish notions which cause our maladjustments. Something of this lies behind the biblical allegory that Eve was the means of Adam's temptation and fall. Because Eve is a representation of that subconsciousness or that unconsciousness, I guess. And Adam just blew in the wind. In contrast to the magician who stands upright in a garden, the high priestess is seated within the precincts of a temple. The walls of the building are blue. You can see that. And so are the vestments of this virgin priestess. Blue, the color assigned to the moon and to the element water, represents the primary root substance, the cosmic mind stuff, which is the element particularly attributed to the creative world. The high priestess herself is a symbol of the roots of this root substance. The 2 pillars between which she sits are those of Solomon and of Hermes, opposite in color but alike in form. They represent affirmation. White pillar bearing the letter Yod, initial of the word Jachin, and negation, black pillar bearing the letter Beth, initial of the word Boaz. For strength, Boaz is rooted in resistance or inertia, which is the negation of the activity, which is the establishing principle, Jachin of all things. No, I paused because actually I finally have the best understanding of active versus passive or negative and positive. So it just took a second to process. The high priestess sits between the pillars because she is the equal liberating power between the yes and the no. She's the maybe. The initiative and the resistance, the light and the darkness. Alike in form, close to each other, opposite in color, the pillars represent 3 laws of the association of ideas and of memory. Now, Ophel says that the 3 pillars actually represent past, present, future. And I see that here because if it's light and dark and in the middle is gray, the gray will be the present, light and dark, future, present. Where was I at? We associate things similar. Well, let's start over. Alike in form, close to each other, opposite in color, the pillars represent 3 laws of the association of ideas and of memory. We associate things similar, things near together in space or time, things sharply contrasted. The bases of the pillars are cubes, thus they represent the symbolism of the high priestess's seat. See, he has a different card. These are circular, but I'm pretty sure the Bota card has the cube at the bottom. This will be explained in the subsequent paragraph. The capitals of the pillar, borrowed from Egyptian architecture, are in the form of lotus buds. They are buds, not open flowers. In this detail, they differ from the capitals in the writer version of the high priestess, but follow the design of the as yet unpublished esoteric tarot. The reason the capitals are buds is that the high priestess, as a symbol of virginity, is, in some measure, a type of latent or undeveloped powers. In the state of subconsciousness here symbolized, the forces of subconsciousness have not come to full bloom. Now, this is what I like about Case, because we read, last night I read the A.E. Waite's breakdown of his own card, and he didn't give half of what Case gave. And I know that A.E. Waite knew, and that's just, kind of bothersome. But the lotus buds represent virginity, potentiality, yet to bloom, etc., etc. The veil between the pillars hints that the high priestess is Virgo intacta. It is the phallic symbol of virginity, but is embroidered with palms male and pomegranates female, as if to suggest the union of positive and negative forces. Now, see, there must be something there because Robert Wang is suspicious that the palm is masculine and pomegranate feminine. And here, Kay states almost the same. He says, as if to suggest the union of positive and negative forces. It's not certain. So that's something I'm going to definitely keep in mind. Subconsciousness is only potentially reproductive in the aspect represented by pt2. So it's potentialities. It is, so to say, covered by a veil. Only when this veil is rent or penetrated by concentrated impulses originating at the self-conscious level may the creative activities of subconsciousness be released and actualized. Compare the arrangement of the palms and pomegranates on the veil with the diagram of the tree of life at the end of the book, and you will see that the position of the high priestess corresponds to the path of Gimel. It does. You will say that just above her head is Kether, and where the cross is, that 13th path will terminate at the center of that cross. I didn't see that either. Descending from Kether to crown at the top of the diagram to Tifereth beauty at the center. Note also that the number of Tifereth 6 corresponds to the 6 shades of the cube whereupon the high priestess sit. We know that all cubes have 6 sides. The high priestess wears a silver crown, reminding us that silver is the metal of the moon. This crown shows the crescents of the waxing and waning moon with their full orb between. It is the horned diadem of the Egyptian Isis, another of the feminine deities personifying root matter of all things. She sits on a cubic stone, a symbol of salt, which crystallizes in perfect cubes, and a reminder of the saltiness of the mystical sea, which is associated with the Virgin Mary. Or what's the Virgin Mary under the sea? I always forget her name. Oh, wow. Virgin Mary under the sea. Let me Google it real quick. I'm wrong for forgetting her name. I'm gonna have to holler it tonight. Virgin Mary under the sea. Oh, I can see it. Her name means star. Typed in Virgin Goddess under the sea. Stella Maris. I couldn't even find it, but it hit me. Star kept coming to mind. Stella Maris. That's the salty waters of the Virgin Mary. Since the time of Pythagoras, moreover, it has been taught openly that the cube is the regular solid representing earth or actual material manifestation. So we can work with this for not just potential. We know that, well, we know that the potential is there. We know it exists, and that that's what she represents, that solid possibilities. Thus, the high priestess sits on the cube because the basis of all subconscious mental activity is what has actually occurred, what actually exists. This underlying reality is what is designated in Hebrew by the name IHVH, Jehovah. And to this word, the figures required to define the proportions of a cube have special reference. Every cube has 6 sides, 8 points or corners, and 12 edges or boundary lines. The number required to express a cube's peculiar limitations being 6, 8, and 12. Their sum is 26. And this is the sum of the values of the Hebrew letters Yod, He, Vav, He, or IHVH. What actually exists, what really is, what materialists and idealists alike misunderstand and misinterpret is the real presence of that which was, is, and shall be. This real presence is the basis of all subconscious activity. The high priestess wears a blue-white robe, suggesting coldness and moisture, again, a reference to the moon, which are the astrological properties of the moon and the characteristics of the element of water. The folds of this robe show a shimmering radiance like that of moonlight on water. And below the white pillar, this garment seems to flow out of the picture like a stream. It symbolizes the stream of consciousness. Similar to students of psychology in Tarot, the robe of the high priestess is the source of the river and of the pools which appear in several subsequent major trumps. The scroll in the woman's lap is that of memory. The scroll in the woman's lap is that of memory. In some versions of this key, it is a book half open. This is the record of past events of all mental, physical states indelibly pressed in the subconscious. Subconsciousness is both universal and personal. I wrote myself a note here that memory is feminine. Isis remembered Osiris. Thus, the memory record includes the past events of race history, the past events of history of the planet, the past events of this whole cycle of cosmic manifestation. This just described Akash, fifth element, the uniting intelligence. It said that the earth is the holder of the Akashic records. Mountain P. Hall said that. Hence, the scroll is inscribed with the word Torah, which is the phonetic equivalent of the Hebrew Torah, T-O-R-A-H, or law. Yet this word is also related to the Latin rota, from which also explained in chapter 3, the very name Tarot is derived. Natural law is the cosmic subconscious record of every event in the innumerable cycles and subcycles of life, powers, self-expression. In the rider pack, there is a yellow crescent at the feet of the high priestess. This is a good lunar symbolism, but it confuses the symbolic issues. This will be better understood after you have read the explanation of the Empress in the next chapter. The solar cross of equal arms on the high priestess's breast. Well, I want to stop and back it up. If you remember, I made a statement about the crescent under her feet. And Paul Foster Case says this is actually a confusing symbol. While the crescent itself is a great symbol, the fact that it's under the feet could be confusing. So next weekend, we'll cover the Empress and we'll see what Paul Foster Case has something to say about it. The solar cross of equal arms on the high priestess's breast shows the union of positive upright and negative horizontal, male and female, active and passive, originating and duplicating elements. It also foreshadows, yeah.
Sir, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, son. Thanks for checking on me. I'm almost done, okay? All right. It also foreshadows the completion of the entire cycle represented by the 22 tarot keys, because the cross of equal arms is the original form of the Hebrew letter Tav. Oh, yeah, Tav. Okay. Or Tau, I guess, too. The Tav is the final letter of the Hebrew alphabet. That's what it says. Let me go back. It also foreshadows the completion of the entire cycle represented by the 22 tarot keys, because this cross of equal arms is the original form of the Hebrew letter Tav. Yeah, because Tau is like a T, it's not a cross. The final letter of the Hebrew alphabet. Again, this same cross stands for Hecate, who, among other things, was patroness of all crossroads. According to Greek mythology, finally, the arms of the cross are related to the number 4, or square of 2, as are the square sides of a cube. So, not only does she represent travel, the way, a path, communication, finances, she also represents crossroads, decisions. Remember, in the book of Correspondences, she was there for changes, how to deal with it, how to initiate, and how to support change. So this has been awesome. Hopefully, if you didn't already, you caught the first part to this. I kind of doubled over some information, but hopefully we get the gist of it. If you're working with me, you're spending a week with each card. This will be the start of your week with this card. If not, wherever you are, keep progressing. Come on back and we're gonna get this work in. Again, I just want to say thank you for spending this time with me. Could have been doing anything else other than listening to me bump my gums. If you haven't already, hit the like button, subscribe, share, and hey, I'm gonna see you soon. Hopefully one of this week I'll be able to get down on something else. I'm supposed to be reading this book cover to cover, but man, it was so good. It was taking me like an hour and a half to get through it. So I told myself that I would read through the book first and then do a full book reading. So bear with me. And again, thank you. I appreciate you. And you're going to get this work.